understanding that like passions come and go, and like those that
Mm.
stick are important to explore. What's good, people, traders, and dedicated gold chasers? Welcome back to another modern day trader podcast / just chat session, bro, and chill session. And
Yeah.
firstly, before we go into anything, I hope you guys checked out the review this week, and I hope that you guys also checked out the analysis this week. I think
Mm.
the week was probably a good one. So yeah. Uh, anyway, jumping into today's question and or topic that we're going to be speaking about. While I was running yesterday, I had this thought, and it's really just a thought, Sam, that like crosses multiple areas of your life and doesn't necessarily have to be like trading based. Can be anything, but like the thought of
Mm.
the question was, how do you really know what you're doing in whatever process that you're doing it correctly? And how do you know that like
Mm.
what you're doing isn't just like another thing that like, because obviously everything that you do, you're gonna go like with confidence into it, you're gonna push like, and you're gonna go into it thinking that is correct. But how do you really know like midway through the process, or even like quarter through the process, before you get to 75 or 100, before you hit the hole, before you succeed? How do you know that when you're in that first 25% of like doing something, that what you're really doing is leading you towards something and is actually correct in like any process of life? So yeah, Sam.
Yeah. All right, bro. Yeah, thanks for the question and I think the topic. And like I said to you briefly, looking forward to I think having a conversation where the topic is a bit broader and isn't
Mm,
just focused on trading, because the past couple of episodes have been about around that. But that's fine because this segment is like a bit loose in any case. So um 100K challenge aside, I think these other topics are also quite important because it like feeds into um yeah, kind of everything in the process. So yeah, looking at the question, how do you know whether what you're doing is right or correct or leading you to that ideal outcome? That's kind of like how I interpret it. Um, and it's a tricky one, and I'm looking at it from a few different angles because I know you maybe asked it to me with one in mind, but I look at it from a broader sense, like how do you know that the thing you've picked to pursue or the thing that you're doing, i.e.
mm,
trading, or if you just started a small business, or you uh, whatever, doing like personal training, like how do you know that's going to lead to like the outcome that you want, whatever your goal is, whether it's to make more money or help X amount of people or whatever. In our case, obviously trading. But then also when you've picked something, let's say you are confident in something, and like I'm certain that trading is the craft that I've chosen and I want to pursue a career in it. How do I know that the things I'm doing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis are actually the things that are
mm,
going to lead me to becoming a funded trader, passing the $100,000 challenge, scaling to $200,000? I think you can look at the question from different kind of like angles. I'm quite like comfortable in terms of like trading as like an ideal like career path or outcome. And I think, to be honest, we're a bit like fortunate in this day and age because there's so much more access to information that gives you um, uh, I guess, a lot of information or like perspective on like a certain career path that maybe people didn't have access to in the past. Like, you can find out a lot about a certain industry before you even get into it, which is something that I think in the past wasn't really, you know, something people could do. It's like a lot of careers were new. And I mean, even now, a lot of careers are new, but you, you can be pretty certain that what you've chosen to do is something that is can work out, is realistic, that people have succeeded in the past. Look, whether it's for you personally or not, I think that's never for me to say that something isn't for someone else. I think you only know if something's for you. But I know for me personally, trading is pretty much in line with something that I'm looking to do very long term. It aligns with my passion, within financial services. So from that like broader sense of like, is this career path like, is it leading to the outcome that I want? Like, I can just answer that as yes, bro. It's a pretty tough one to answer.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think it's a personal question from that
Mm,
sense. But when you dive into like the day to day things that you're doing, how do I know that, you know, the way I'm forecasting, the way I'm journaling, the way I'm back testing, the strategy that I'm trading. Because when you ask me that question, those are the kinds of things that I think of are leading to that optimal outcome. Um, in a nutshell, I don't think you can ever be certain that is something sort of is going to work for you, because a lot of the process is trial and error. Um, and we all sort of use different things to get to maybe the same outcome, in that back testing works for some people but it doesn't work for others. It's better to just forward test and live trade. um and so I think there's a variety of like ways you can get to the same goal, hence also like it's a lot of trial and error. But I think also trying to figure out whether I don't know, too much asking yourself like this question can also keep you in that planning phase a lot, and then you end up not taking action. So it's also like, don't dwell on that question too much. It's kind of better to just take action, because like I said, you'll never really know. But I think as a general rule of thumb, I always think back to that saying of like, what you can't measure, you can't improve on, or what you don't measure, you
mm,
can't improve on, something like that. So it's almost about developing like I almost like look at like the system, or like the plan or the processes that I've developed. And I almost ask myself, is there a way for me to actually measure that I'm improving over a specific period of time? Because I also have to give certain things enough time to work out. Um, and so answered the question of, okay, this from a higher or broader sense, I'm on the right path. Like, I feel like I am. I'll never know until I get there, but got enough info that tells me this is something tangible to work towards. Um, Once I've done that, then looking at the things I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, there are a variety of them. Okay, I must just actually just pick something, and or pick a bunch and do it. But the ones that I pick, I need to, in each of them, be able to measure kind of like on a daily basis or a weekly basis
mm,
or monthly basis how I'm actually doing from like a performance perspective. Like, am I actually improving? Like, what are my results looking like? Is doing these things moving the needle? Or even if it's not moving the needle right now, is it helping me identify where I think the blockages are? And am I proactive in kind of looking at those blockages? Like, for example, the current strategy development that I'm doing with my trading, um, that obviously I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, but then couldn't just look at the results alone. Like, I kind of had to look at, um, kind of went back to the plan, and looking at the plan, I felt that there wasn't enough detail in the plan that I was trading.
mm,
So, or it's like looking at the way I would journal, even post a trade. It's like it's almost like questioning that there's not enough information here that helps me understand like why I made certain decisions. So that must be because there's maybe a lack of clarity in that decision-making process. So it took me back to, okay, how do I actually make decisions? And then when I got to,
Mm.
okay, the plan that helps me make decisions, I realized that, okay, the plan actually doesn't specify maybe in enough detail how I'm making certain decisions. So I need to relook at this. And that almost like led me to the rabbit hole of, okay, diving deeper into the strategy, learning more concepts, and kind of like this whole like revamp or ICT implementation of the plan. So it's, yeah, in a nutshell, like that's maybe how I'll sum up the answer, in that it's, you never really know, but you just got to pick a few things, and how you do those things will either give you confidence in you moving forward or not. But then when you've picked those things and you've set them up in a certain way so that you know objectively these things are going to show you your strengths and weaknesses over a specific period of time, it's also giving those things enough time to play out. Um, but then over that time, like the onus is still on you to kind of be proactive, because I think that's where a lot of people kind of, and I've been victim to this as well in the past, where you set up the perfect system, but then it's like you kind of just need to do the work still at the end of the day.
Mm.
And if I'm not proactive or um, consistent in doing the things that I know I should be doing, then I'm robbing myself of uh, a true sort of reflection of how um, maybe I should be doing ideally, because then I'm going to blame, the plan or my back testing session or whatever, or the strategy, or I'll point fingers everywhere else except myself, because I think
Mm.
that things aren't working. But at the end of the day, I'm actually not doing the things that I need to be doing for it to work. So I think that's probably the final piece of the question is, are you also doing the things that you need to be doing to be getting the type of result? Because it's all good and well saying like, oh, how do I know if this thing's working? Well, am I actually working before I start questioning
Yeah.
whether other things are working? Um, and yeah, I think once you can almost like do things consistently, you naturally get on a course where you figure out, or you gain better confidence in things that aren't working, and you can be more confident in, okay, I can see this thing isn't working, I need to do things a different way here or there, because you kind of get to that state where you like, I'm doing something over and over again, and clearly it's not getting the result. I'm not getting the
Mm.
result that I'm expecting or that I want, or my data is showing me that I'm making a mistake here, because I've been consistent in getting the data, and now the data is speaking to you.
Yeah.
And then you can, course correct from there. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's how I'd answer, that question of how do you know whether you're on the right track, or how do you know whether things you're doing are leading you on the right track. And yeah, interested to hear what your take on the question is, bro. I hope that answer
Ah.
wasn't confusing and made sense.
That does make sense. It makes sense. And I think just like to hop on what you said, I think it's a matter of being able to measure like yourself against a plan that you created. And even if you go back to like school, and the way things are done in school is that they have your multiple subjects and they measure you against like your marks that you get for that particular subject. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
they say whether you pass or fail based on like all the tests that you've done throughout the year, and then that's your final mark for math, for instance, or whatever the case may be, and things of that nature. And that way you can like know whether like you actually growing in math, or if you like not
mm,
really growing, you know what I mean? Or if like, so if you have these types of things put in place to like definitively measure your growth, then I think it's easier, number one, to be able to move forward in whatever you want to do, and it's easier
mm,
to like measure that thing or put it against something that you've put down already. So I think like there's a lot of things that you can go back to the schooling system and how they like formed it and learn from like those types of things. uh but like my main thing would obviously be to then like be able to place these like be able to place these blocks in your life where if you're starting something new or if you like being in something that you're doing, be able to like place these kind of checkpoints where you can check in and like know that are you doing this and like what is your grade essentially at that particular checkpoint. Like
mm,
when I studied, we had like financial accounting one, financial accounting two, and financial accounting three. You know what I mean? Like in each year. So like, but then in each year, you need to be able to get a certain mark to pass, and you need to be able to get a certain mark to get a distinction. And you have those regular checkpoints in place to be able to know whether you understand what you're doing and whether you're moving forward in the particular line or the particular area of choice that you've decided to do. And so, like, I think if you can have those regular points in place to say that at this date, I'm going to check myself based on this, and that, the same way in a test they have you like they marking based on a structure of a particular test. You know what I mean? And so, like, in that test or multiple tests that they put in place for you to get your semester mark, for instance, you need to be able to pass test one, pass test two, and then pass your exam. Like, I think you need to formulate a simulation essentially for you to be able to check yourself on that particular area, whether it be your career, whether it like a lot of companies will do these reviews and things, and they'll mark you based on what they have you like your performance at. But then, like, do you
mm,
have those reviews for yourself? You know what I mean? Like, if it's a career option or career path that you want to stay in and want to grow in, like, what are your parameters for yourself in growth? Like, does that company allow you to grow in the areas that you want to grow in? You know what I mean? Like,
mm,
it's like I don't even want to touch on trading because I feel like you spoke on trading enough. But like, does the particular company that you're working at, or does that course that you're doing, like, does it allow you to, in your opinion, like meet your requirements that you have every semester or every quarter? Like, as much as an like a school or a business does a performance review on you and they sit you down and they ask you how have you performed, like, and then they give you their feedback on how you can do better. I feel like you should start placing those things in place for yourself, and it's quite easy to learn if you look at the systems and
mm,
structures that are already in place. Like, you can literally just start to take from the like proceed like the processes and like their procedures that they have in place on marking like the people that work for them. Like, you can just put it in place for yourself and then like start to
true,
look at like
true.
whether whether you growing, like, does this particular place that you're at now fit you and your like goals? You know what I mean? And it's fine if it doesn't, you can allow it in maybe another 6 months. After that, now you've given it a year. If that particular place doesn't allow you to grow in an area or in multiple areas that you don't think you getting, but you need it to go where you want to go with the skill that you want, then there's always another company or there's always another cause or there's always something else that you can go ahead and do. But it's about being able to set parameters in place for yourself and not get caught lacking. You know what I mean? In skill acquisition, like, you need to be able to definitively say, like, this is what they measuring me against. What am I measuring myself against? Like, I'm gonna measure
Mm,
myself against, like, over the next 6 months, do I learn property development? Do I learn, for instance, in my field, do I learn to compile? Do I learn to do an independent review? Am I learning how to submit fact appropriately and on my own? Do I know how to do a tax like calculation and a tax like submission on my own? You know what I mean? And like, those are the things
mm,
that you need to be able to like weigh yourself against and then ask yourself definitively, like, am I growing here? And if the answer is
mm,
like no, then it's like, okay, Are you going to stay here? Do you see like potential, first of all? Do you see one, two, three other people in that place that you're in? So you just need to like weigh and measure yourself against that particular parameters that you set in place for yourself. And I think that's really it, bro. Like that's the way I think that like you
Mm,
can determine whether you're on the right path and whether you are gaining the skill, or like whether you, when you're at that first quarter of gaining skill, like that's the way you can really definitively say whether this process could potentially work. Because when you're at the end, you still
mm,
don't know. Like you'll know at the end if it worked or not, but like throughout the whole process, like all you can do is like measure yourself against like the parameters and the things that you had in place for yourself at the start. So I think
mm.
going into the process, you just need to have those like measurements and those like grading like things in place in order to grade yourself all along the way, and like be real with yourself like in every area. Like it could be gym, it could be anything, you know what I mean? Like just being able to
Yeah,
like measure yourself against something, and like yeah, having an expectation of yourself. So yeah, bro,
sure.
that's what I think.
Mm. No, that's clean, bro. And I just thought it was interesting what you were saying, just in terms of, because when you was as you were speaking, I was kind of thinking something like I'd almost wanted to mention was it's I don't know, at least for me, I feel it's important to have to know that you are doing something in line with like the broader like career that you want to do. Like, for example, it's like you may frustrate yourself wondering whether the things you're doing on a day-to-day basis are actually
Mm,
leading you to that outcome when you're not even in the industry that like works for you. Like you're
yeah.
working in marketing, but you actually want to be like in the retail space. So obviously it's going to feel like everything you're doing on a day-to-day basis doesn't feel right, because you
Mm,
actually more want to be like in the retail space, or like in construction or property or whatever. But at the same time, I was thinking like I think it's more common than not. I think just at our age that there's you kind of in a space that you maybe not like 100% passionate about, and you want to, be in another industry, or work in a different kind of business, or do like some sort of like lateral career switch. And thinking from a sense like, one, it's actually okay not to know what that bigger step may be, like if you're not clear on it yet,
mm,
um, because you you just don't really need to know. I think sometimes I catch myself like that, where I'm like, I have to know what the bigger picture is, but like you don't have to know what the bigger picture is, but you could
yeah.
be, like you said, when you put those steps for yourself in terms of like how often do you like almost audit yourself internally, in terms of like, obviously there's ways your current company will measure your performance, but how do you measure your performance? What things are you interested in, even if it's like a short course that's going to like develop your knowledge around maybe a certain
Mm,
topic that you're interested in. You might look you may be interested in like property or property development, but like not to the point where you're trying to make like a full-blown career switch into it. But
mm,
let's say you do a short course. I know UCT as a online short course, like it's like a 8 or 12 week program on like property investment and development. Like you just do those small things just to like get more knowledge, and that may lead to you doing a full blown career switch, but that may be
mm,
just a bit of information that you need to
yeah.
that's going to lead you to the next thing that's going to give you more knowledge, or a business idea, or like a side hustle sort of idea, whatever it is. But it's like you don't have to know what the bigger picture is. And I think it's more important, like you're saying, to kind of just like regularly be able to check in with yourself and take those small steps as well to do the things that may just lead you to the next piece of information that you find interesting, or to upskill yourself in one area or another. It doesn't have to be like a big switch. And if you're not in, and even if you do want to make that big switch, like moving from construction to finance or whatever, you don't have to make the big switch before you can start doing the small things that are going to upskill you or hold you accountable to just taking those small steps day in and day out, that are going to eventually lead you to that big goal. But I think at the core, it just comes back to what you were saying of being able to have a system that almost like monitors, um, or keeps track of the things you're doing that are in line
Mm.
with, whatever you're trying to measure. So I just thought that was interesting thought that I had as you were speaking.
Yeah, no, that is quite interesting, bro. And I think we're just agreeing with what we're saying, bro. Like, I think in life, just in general, you just need to be able to, like, you don't have to 100% commit to something at the start if you don't know what you're doing. And you don't need to
Mm,
like make a 180 completely, but you can start with those small things in life when you do feel like, bro, this is what I could potentially want to do. Do that 8 week course, do that 4 5 week
mm,
course where you start to gain knowledge. And then that 4 5 week course might jump to a 12 week course for a bit more in depth, like
mm,
knowledge on whatever it is. And then like from there you can have enough information in front of you to then like make a competent decision and make a decision where like
mm,
you fully cognizant about everything, you know what I mean? And like you can say that, okay, no, this is something that I want to explore. And it's just about like understanding that like passions come and go, and like those that
mm,
stick are important to explore. And once you explore, just go in, and as Sam mentioned, like go in with everything and do everything once like that passion sticks. Like if it sticks there and is fully there, go in with like all you have, and don't be able to say I left this on the floor, or I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And then like once you make a decision to switch, or even like just to like do both at the same time until the other one like potentially like outdoes or outperforms the first initial thing that you're doing. Like I think the good thing is to never be able to say like I haven't fully like pushed myself to a
mm.
place where like I feel like I could have done this, but I just didn't do enough in the time that I had to do it.
Sure,
So yeah, bro.
sure.
Yeah, that's my final thoughts, bro.
Yeah, and I don't think I think if there's one thing you guys, should take away from this is what Marcy just said. Passions come and go, but those that stick are the ones to explore. And yeah, couldn't have sort of just wrapped it up better myself. So yes, from your boys at the Modern Day Trader, remember guys, consistency is the choice that you make when you start doing the things you know you should be doing day in and day out. Peace.